Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Alright, so in this particular tutorial I'll be showing you or be teaching you mistakes, about 20 of them designers make, especially beginners designers when they start their graphic design journey. Alright, so I've been there before, and there are actually some mistakes I made when I started designing. So I'm just making this video to just show you, in order to just like guide you to aid your journey when designing. Alright, so I'll be making use of a guide. It's a PDF file. Sorry about this. By May Graphics. It's quite interesting. So I've been making use of two design tool. I'm making use of pixellab and canva for this tutorial. Alright, so the first mistake we'll be talking about here is when you actually design and making use of practically too much images in your design. And you can see from what she said here, when you use too much images for your design, it's going to make it very, very bad, to make it look unprofessional. You can see from this one is even all over the screen and the text everywhere. And there are times you see some designs that the images will be too much. For example, maybe it's a salon, and you now just see pictures, just put like so many pictures there that are unnecessary. In design, less is more. Just two things, as long as just two of those products can actually go far in the communication process of that particular product. For example, this, I can see my interface here. If this was not needful, I won't have used it. I was even still contemplating on the mobile phone and the desktop screen which I used there. I had so many doubts when I used it there, but you can see if this thing was not needful. You can see the facilitators, which is King Leo, Coach Kelvin, Vera, Bebo, and the likes, the rest. If they were not needful, I won't have used them there. So one problem is using too much images. For example, maybe you go to, it actually happens with maybe all these people that sell stuff like makeup, cosmetics, and the likes. So they tend to make use of so many images in their design. So it is very, very bad. So the next thing is placing your image over your text. Now it will look unprofessional when you're actually writing on your text, on your image rather. So it looks very, very unprofessional. When you just start doing your design, and the next thing you're actually writing on your text. Sorry about that. So let me just keep this interface. Okay, so let me just bring in an image. So for example, if I'm just to use this image for my design, let me just make this black, white. Should be okay. Alright, so we just have to lock it. So the next thing, I just bring in a text. Okay, let me just make use of this, and I just start writing. Even though the text is like that, I just start writing on the screen, covering my ears. It will look unprofessional. It will very look unprofessional. So those are the mistake. One of the mistake designers make when they start. So if you actually want to start writing on your image, there are some things you can also consider. For example, I think I did a design. For example, okay, let's see this one in particular. Okay, alright, so the next one we'll be looking at, when you're now just writing on the screen without, see, it's bad. I can barely read this. You can see I can actually barely read this thing. So the best thing is just to maybe bring in a shape. You bring in a shape and you just just as we did in the other place, you reduce the opacity, then you can just bring in your text and bring it to the front. So you can see I'm now even seeing it very well. I'm kind of seeing it very well, but it still look very, very bad. But this is ways you can actually do your own. And there are times you can actually write on the face, on the image of your design. But one thing about design, when you know the rule, you can break it. When you know the rule, you can break it. Or when you're breaking it, you just have to defend yourself that yes, I know, yes, but I just decide to use it like that. But for a beginner, it will actually look bad. You can see this. Maybe I'm trying to write our services. I'm now writing on image. That you reduce the opacity of that particular image. Reduce it very, very well. You just be showing a little bit. Make it very, very transparent. So that's one mistake you have to avoid, and one thing you have to do, just avoid writing on the screen of your design. So before we go, I will actually show you a design where we actually wrote on the screen and it actually looks good, but the writing I actually wrote on the screen was not too much. It was just a short writing. I'll actually show you something like that. Now you can see on this one here, if it is in pixellab, just as we did here, that we actually brought in a shape. You can as well bring in, I'll just edit this, increase the opacity probably. Then I can just as well bring in a gradient. This is a gradient effect. Click on this part, then make this one transparent, and I'll just increase this part. Okay, so you can actually see the image is showing. Now you can now see that my image is kind of showing. I can just come here and change the color of this one to white now, and the text is still showing. This is still very good if in case you actually want to write. So it will be very, very unprofessional if you're not writing on the screen. So let me show you a particular design in Canva. Now you can see how I actually did this one here. I added a faded gradient on, just search for a faded gradient and I applied it on the image, and the design actually looks cool. Okay, so these are mistakes you have to avoid when you're designing. So I will just have to. The next step is using floating image. So it will not be advisable for you to start using an image that we know it is half. You're now using half image, that you're not putting down, letting it be obvious that actually you are using an image that seems to be half for your design. It's very, very bad. Okay, let me show you what to do if it's in that case. So this is what you should do in particular if you're having that scenario. Probably you are having a particular design which you're trying to do when the image seems to be just short. Now it's unprofessional if you just leave it like this and you start designing. It's either you just draw it to the bottom. You draw it to the bottom. And okay, if I'm actually designing, if I'm to use this lady, also if I'm actually to use this image, this lady here, it actually must fit with the design I'm doing. But because of our position, it is better you use it here, or you can also use it here. It's your choice. It still looks good this way. I still like it this way, but it will be bad when you now start use it like this. Okay, if you now actually want to make use of it like this, you can also as well come up with that gradient effect. Alright, so I'll just make use of the previous effect we made use of the other time. Now this effect must actually go with my background. So I'll just change this color to, let me change the color to white. Okay, then I will just as well as reduce the opacity for this. Let's just come here and edit this. But practically this is everything I'm saying. It will be very, very bad and unprofessional if you are if you're just to design and start using, just a gradient actually covers everything, covers the image. And let's just make use of it like this. Let's just make use of it like this. I guess you understand, you get what I'm saying. So these are practically ways mistakes you can actually avoid. Then another thing you can also do, you can just come here, bring in the shape. Okay, let me just bring in the shape, and then I'll just come here, bring in probably a circle. Alright, so I will just come here, change the color to this. Then I will merge these two. So I'll just come here, come to erase my color. Then no, take this parts out. Now you can actually see now that this lady is somewhere. It's actually the place that is actually cut out is being covered. So the best thing is just to cover it. Is either you use a gradient, or just make sure that thing is actually covered, the base is covered. Or if it is actually a full image, you can use a full image. And also, as regards the image, once you're actually doing a design where your image is, for example, now let's just make use of this. It is in white. Where your image is, now if your image is here, your text should be here. Shouldn't have double clicked. Now the same thing happens this way. If your text is here, your image should be here. That is, if your text is at the left, your image should be at the right. If your text is at the right, your image should be at the left. Or if your text is, you can as well make use of it like this. And aside shape, you can also use text to actually cover the base of the woman in particular. Let's just make use of this one. Okay, I'll just make use of this typeface. Okay, let me make use of just this. We'll make use of this. So I can just make use of probably maybe if my text is kind of text that can actually cover this. Let me see if I'll reduce the line spacing. So you can, if I now put this thing together here, maybe you can see this text is actually covering it's covering that particular part. So the aim is just to make that place is covered. So if you're actually back to what I'm saying before, if you're using 14 minutes, if you're using the lady position is here, you have to make sure your text is here. The same way, same around, aside except your heading. Now I can show you some of my previous works that I've done. So this is a sample. Now this is another sample. A product cover. You can see the text is actually at the middle. The image is also at the middle. Everything is just at the middle of the design. Now it is actually centered aligned. Now this is another product I used. The text was actually, they're both centered aligned. So this is practically one way and one thing you can actually do when you're doing your design. Now this interesting design, it's okay while it's loading. Now this is another design. You can actually see that now this text is at the center, then we have some at the right and the left. This is a particular style I just decided to come up with. Now this is something you can see these ladies are actually half, so I made sure they are touching the base, and I made sure the next is using watermark images. Now watermark images are those images that you actually use for your design, but you'll be seeing some writings over it. You can see this one, we have some writings over it, canva, you see those lines there. So it is actually very, very bad when you use watermarks images. And also you don't use image with low quality. When you use image that have low quality, that's why I don't like using remove .bg for to remove my background. I use photo room for my mobile designs to remove background. So that's one thing you can avoid. So let me just say one thing again. If you're trying to make a design, you can, if you notice that for this design here, I actually made sure, you see my designs, they are not actually passing this grid line. They are actually by this side, and this one too is by this side. So it will be unprofessional if you actually using your design to cross that line. It will be very, very bad, especially your writings, your text, your typography. The text should not actually pass that line. The image may pass that line, but your text, which is the most important part of your design, of your content, should not pass that line to look unprofessional, or probably when you upload it to other sites, so that side may actually cut off, or when it is far from the hand, it will be protected. Okay, so let's now move to typeface. Now font. Now excessive line space. Now you can see from this place, all glitters is not good, is bad. So what you should just try to reduce the line space. So he said use between 0.98 to 1.4 line space on Canva, depending on the size of your text. So your line space should always depend on the size of your text. So let me go back to my Canva design. Now you can see we are hiring. I actually try to maintain my line space in there. Now let me move to this design. What you do something, unless you do something beyond what you've already done, you will never grow. All right, see, they note the line spacing that I actually made use of in the design. All right, so I don't want to make this video more than 20 minutes. Probably I'll continue next time in another video, but I guess it's actually worth it. In pixellab, if I'm to reduce my line spacing, now at times I may want to do a design, then I'll just bring in, I may not want to make use of this line space. I might see that it's too big for me. I'll just come here to the line spacing. I just reduce it a bit or increase it. Now when you increase it, it's actually showing that these two things are not related. That's what it's showing, that this thing is quite this, the difference between this and this. But when you reduce the line spacing, make it to show that these things are actually kind of related. They're kind of related. So said 0.95 and 0.1 in Canva. So I have to stop this video now. I'll continue in the next video.